contribution to getting this little act up and away.
Thank you. Well, thank you very much. That's
To Bill.
Thank you very much. And thank you for.
Julian Lancashire and Chris Harris have trained 4 hours a day, 4 times a week to gain entry to the Australian Ballet School, a feat achieved by only 15 boys Australia-wide each year. Julian started dancing at the tender age of 6. Both he and Chris joined predominantly female ballet classes taken by Robin Turner, a tough taskmaster but one who gets results. Both boys agree young male dancers often face a tough time from schoolmates. So much so, Julian once doubted his choice of career.
All the pressure from school and stuff like that, and I decided that I want what I want.
That they do get a lot of pressure from their peers at school, that they think it's sissy. Why do you want to do ballet? But it's amazing how these young kids, if they decide that that's what they want to do, there's no one is going to change their mind. That they really, they push ahead for it and it doesn't worry them.
When I first started it was, knocked back and wasn't accepted, but now that I've stuck with it and continued, they don't worry about it anymore and just accept it.
The boys will spend 3 years at the Australian Ballet School. From there, their ambitions lie with the Australian Ballet Company. But for the moment, they're hard at work rehearsing for a farewell performance a week from today at Western Suburbs Leagues Club.
It's a scene that's been played out almost every day for the past fortnight on Newcastle's Merriweather, Dixon Park and Bar beaches. Continued sightings of the hammerhead sharks have forced inspectors to clear the waters and declare the beaches closed for the remainder of the day. Meanwhile today, little more than 100 metres offshore, the cause of all the panic were drifting, unaware of the havoc they were causing. In fact, the hammerheads have done nothing more than just that since arriving in Newcastle waters last month. Nevertheless, they've caused enormous concern, having been described as everything from man-eating monsters to harmless plant eaters. However, according to the experts, both those descriptions are way out of line. According to Paul Watts, head of the aquarium at Sydney's Taronga Park Zoo, the hammerhead shark comes in 2 varieties, the scalloped and the smooth. They grow up to about 4 metres. Most of those seen off Newcastle have been between 2 and 4 metres. Most importantly, says Paul, the hammerhead shark is predominantly a fish eater, with a particular liking for stingray and kingfish. In fact, he says that's another reason for the shark's continued presence in local waters, as both those varieties of food are in abundance here at present. In groups, the hammerheads are not aggressive. Only when swimming solo have they been known to appear dangerous. There are no recorded attacks by the hammerhead in Australia. It's quite likely they could remain here for weeks or could be gone by tomorrow, as they're only following the warmer waters. Generally, the sharks move in the warmer waters between Queensland and Sydney or the south coast. However, despite the hammerhead's feeding preferences, Paul said it's not recommended for humans to swim near a school and said beach inspectors had opted for the right decision in declaring beaches closed while they remain here.
Under aggregation, Australia's regional stations will be compelled to expand their viewing areas, the idea being to give rural communities greater choice of programs. However, the prime time idea is starting to rate lower than a B-grade movie. In the southern region around Canberra, where aggregation has already been introduced, it has failed. The stations are becoming simply arms of the three major networks, and local content has been slashed, being much more expensive than simply taking programs from 7, 9 or 10. Additionally, a recent report claims under aggregation only one regional station will make money in the next 10 years.
In southern New South Wales, it's been a financial disaster. It's also been a disaster for the audience there. For example, of the three stations in the Canberra-Wollongong area, two of them have virtually cut out all local news services. Traditionally, they are the most popular programs.
The rumblings of discontent have been growing, but Darling Downs TV in Toowoomba, which operates as Vision TV, has become the first to firmly say no. Vision TV was due to broadcast into its expanded area in 1991. Chairman David Haynes now says aggregation will not work there and is suing Communications Minister Ralph Willis.
Aggregation is void according to our lawyers. I'm no lawyer, but we've had our own opinion. The Solicitor General has independently come up with an opinion, and the Australian Broadcasting Tribunal have had QC's opinion. All of them have come to the same conclusion.
The Minister rejects claims that aggregation has failed, saying in a statement that Darling Downs should have opposed the system when it had a chance 3 years ago. Mr Willis is in fact reappraising aggregation after being approached by regional station managers last year and after serious flaws were found in the legislation. The Minister says he's astounded that court action is being taken while the issues are still being examined. According to David Haynes, however, the Minister had plenty of notice that the system wasn't working and his company had run out of time.
We have to have this matter clarified legally. We also have to, as I see it, get the government to look at the possibility of a better way of bringing additional services to the country.
Yeah, we are. We'll be on telly tonight, mopping up the floor.
If Marketing Director Graham Curry gets his way, these scenes from Brisbane's World Expo 2 years ago will be repeated at the 1990 Newcastle show late this month. After extensive surveys throughout the Hunter, Mr Curry found what people want most in a show is entertainment.
Newcastle wants to have a show that is about fun and spectacle, but most importantly about humour.
This year, the traditional educational and agricultural exhibitions will be complemented by street performers, comedians and artists. But acts such as this don't come cheap. The committee faces entertainment expenses of $100,000, added to another $400,000 for general expenses. Show President Bob Cannington admits it's a gamble.
It's a calculated chance. We are looking at probably a 2 to 3 year period in which we will hopefully come out on top.
Preparations have already begun at the showground. All the buildings have been classified safe since the earthquake, and the ground is in excellent condition despite record rainfall in the last week.
The Newcastle Hunters compete in the South Eastern Basketball League, which incorporates teams from New South Wales, Victoria, South Australia and Queensland, and has steadily built up quite a following. This year will see a new direction for the Hunters. Originally fielded by the Newcastle Basketball Association, they will now play under the Falcons banner, with total control and responsibility falling on the Sellers Group, who own the Falcons. And last year's National League team assistant coach Claude Williams has taken over the reins at Hunter headquarters. This weekend, Claude and his panel have conducted an open trial, attracting 25 top prospects from the Hunter Valley and the Central Coast. The players have been pushed through fitness drills, ball handling exercises, shooting capabilities and general play under match conditions. The squad was cut to 15 last night and the final 10 places on the team will be announced later this evening. 2 American imports will join the Hunters soon to complete the squad for this year. Over 500 young boys and girls flocked to Nobby's Beach for the annual Newcastle Junior Brand Surf Lifesaving Championships, and the rain and the huge surf didn't deter these fine athletes one bit. For some it was more fun than a regulation hot day at the beach. For others, the prospect of swimming in the heavy swell along with the fierce rips was a daunting prospect. But swim and run they did. Representing the 12 district clubs, the juniors competed in the traditional surf lifesaving events such as the beach flags, and it was every person for themselves. The beach sprint is always one of the glamour events on the program, and the 13-year-old boys race was a beauty, with Merryweather's Shane Harris continuing his recent good form with a win over a pretty hot field. It was a mixed field that lined up for the junior Ironman title, encompassing a swim, board and run format. Ben McGregor relished the heavy going and set up an early lead in the swim, but hot on his heels were Drew Chamello and Nat Russell. Russell's technique on the board was excellent and he soon overhauled his opponents and was able to catch a nice wave and ride it to the shoreline. From there it was a short scamper to the line for Russell from the Cooks Hill Club, and he won from Chamello and McGregor, who was third. A fortnight from today, over 5,000 junior surf lifesavers will be at Umina on the Central Coast for the state titles.
On December 28, Newcastle became a builder's paradise. As the extent of the earthquake damage became clear, tradesmen from outside the area quickly realised there would be far too much work for the locals, and they've arrived in their hundreds. Ron Couchbauer is just one who has brought a team from Sydney. He says there's so much demand he could be here 5 years.
In my case, I'm able to go home once a month, just check the house and come back up to Newcastle, so I might be thinking of moving to Newcastle.
The only thing slowing the work, in fact, is a shortage of the most basic building block, bricks. According to industry sources, 15 million bricks will be used here in the coming months, and even with the major companies giving priority to Newcastle, it will take some time to supply the orders. However, PGH alone can press out 1 million a week from its plant at Medford, so one would expect the crisis to be short-lived. But there are bricks and there are bricks. To walk through the PGH yard, you'd hardly believe there was a brick shortage. The fact is, though, that these are all the wrong sort of bricks. Back around the turn of the century, this was the only brick you could get. It's called a dry press, and it's now a very much sought-after commodity.
What we're trying to do is basically get spare parts for a Model T Ford.
Newcastle is an old city and many of the damaged homes were built around the Federation era. Trying to match their distinctive dry press bricks has sales reps combing the state. Work is continuing on some houses, but as in this case, the bricks have been salvaged from other similar walls.
We'll brush it down. There's the other walls, it's all got dirt and dust on it. It'll just stick to it and you won't notice it in 12 months' time.
PGH is now taking an unusual step to fill the demand. The company has located dry press machinery in Sydney and is transporting it to Medford to especially make Newcastle bricks. New South Wales sales manager Greg Ryle says many of the old bricks came from the original brickworks on the Medford site, and he should be able to recreate the real thing.
While the Beaumont Street shopping centre is slowly returning to normal, a survey by the Hamilton Chamber of Commerce shows nearly 60% of businesses have laid off staff.
We've lost about 150 jobs in the Hamilton area.
While most businesses had some form of basic insurance, only 30% were covered for loss of profits, including the payment of wages.
I had to put 2 employees, an apprentice and a senior one. Not because I want to, but I had to. I had no choice. I had no more shop and I was not insured for a loss of profit.
Ralph Della Grotto worked as a barber on this site for 18 years, but for 6 weeks after the quake, he had no business and no income. While Ralph has reopened on another site, the chances of re-employing all his staff are low as he has no finances. In Newcastle, 100 casual employees at the Workers' Club were laid off. While some have been soaked up by other clubs, many workers are still without that income. The CES says while the quake has put some on the dole, extra building and clerical work has covered this. Insurance and engineering firms have taken on extra staff. Since January, 150 positions were filled in the building trade.
Because we're getting more people into the building, which is not normal, of course, at this time of the year, we find that is compensating the loss of people to the clerical and retail area. I wouldn't say it's 100%, but certainly does have a compensating effect.
In musical money and people terms, this is a major event. 40,000 fans are expected, generating more than $800,000 in ticket sales. 9 of Australia's premier bands are performing this Sunday, beginning with Spy vs Spy at midday, through to Party Boys, Johnny Diesel, Jimmy Barnes, Noiseworks, Ian Moss, Crowded House, Angels, Split Ends, and the final act starting around 7, Midnight Oil.
Word around the industry is that it is the biggest rock concert in the history of Australian rock and roll.
And Kerry Jarvis ought to know she's worked with some of the world's greatest acts like Bon Jovi and Whitney Houston. All performers have donated their time. According to the promoters, bands like Midnight Oil would normally charge around $200,000 for an open-air concert. Also donating time are the stage workers just back from a Michael Jackson tour of Japan. The men take 3 days to erect the stage with a giant performance area of 50 by 20 metres. The concert has focused the rock world onto Newcastle. More than half of the tickets sold have come from outside the area, including Sydney, Melbourne and even Perth.
At Birmingham Gardens Bowling Club, the humble loaf of bread has undergone a critical examination. They say the proof is in the tasting, but when it comes to bread judging, the aroma, colour, texture and appearance is what's important. In fact, tasting is out of the question. All the bread is stale. A prod and a sniff from a nose that knows determines the loaf that's a slice above the rest.
Now we're feeling for texture. And that is the feel more so than there. That's a little open texture, but it's got a good feel about it, soft. It's really nice and good to eat because there's nothing harsh about it in the mouth, you see.
The 650 entries, which are from bakeries in the Hunter region, Central Coast and Sydney, are judged in 30 categories, ranging from the round roll to the 3-stranded plait. Although judging is well underway, there's still plenty of work to do at the showground before tomorrow's opening. The agricultural ring has been carefully manicured and Sideshow Alley is beginning to take shape. For the people who work the show circuit, setting up is the worst.
It takes 2 days to set this up. Plates, you have to carry the plates 2 out. Other than that, it's a lot of fun watching the people enjoy themselves.
The nomad existence, though, isn't for everyone. Many Novocastrians help out to earn money.
Well, yesterday and today was setting up. It's called bridging up, I believe, learning the lingo. And from Wednesday to Saturday we'll be working on a stall. There's putt-putt golf and there's this, darts and stuff like that.
Much time and effort has gone into the displays at the show. The Hunter Area Health Service has included an operating theatre and puppet show in its exhibition, while the horticultural display is in the form of Grand's Backyard.
Mr Loughton's brief at today's chamber lunch at City Hall was twofold. First, the progress and future for BHP and the prospects for the Australian economy. On that second point, the BHP chief said the current account deficit must be brought down to manageable proportions. To this end, productivity must be increased and foreign debt reduced to at least the level of gross domestic product. It's in the reduction of debt where a consumption tax comes in.
We must not penalise savings. We must encourage people to save and discourage people from spending.
Mr Loughton's comments about the future for BHP were wide-ranging, covering environmental pollution. He said the checks and balances are in place. International competitiveness. He said productivity is being improved. And Newcastle's important role in BHP Steel, turning to producing fewer products with greater added value.
Newcastle is the centre on which we base our rod and bar activities, which caters for our worldwide rod and bar customers. We must keep changing the way we do things to meet the competition and to improve our competitiveness, reduce our costs, improve our quality and our ability to supply our customers.
Warren Bell and Howard Hanson estimate their business has lost around $10,000 in turnover over the past 10 days. As owner-operators, they back the rebel truckies, refusing to cross any picket lines. For them, today's decision to end the blockade was not all good news.
A little bit disappointed that we never got more out of it, but I think we should have got a little bit more, but it's good to be going back to work.
Do you think the truckies would have gained more by staying out longer?
No, not really. The government was pretty set on what they were going to do, and they've lowered our logbook fines, and that's about all.
They say the differences from state to state in speed limits and hours allowed on the road continue to make it hard for them to complete their journeys on time, and the losses incurred during the dispute could be enough to push a struggling business over the edge. A full report on the problems facing Hunter owner drivers in Newsnight tonight at 10:30.